left him a message and he called back this morning. So.
Bill, hi.
Thanks. Good. Okay, we all ready? Okay, welcome everyone. It's 3:02 to the East Sound Planning Review Committee meeting. That's February 2nd. And the orchid.
Senior center.
Oh, senior center. I always have a hard time. Sorry.
Forget that word senior.
Yeah.
I'm trying not.
Is it really? It's 70? Are you really?
Okay, so our happily, our first item is to elect Charles as chair for this coming year. So can I have a motion?
I will move.
So Scott
So,
and Brian. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion approved. So I
whitewash.
am going to
Wait, Charles didn't vote because he
he was outnumbered. So anyway, so I am going to hand this to Charles and we will continue.
Thank you. So we had a discussion just a moment ago about doing a slight change of agenda and modifications to the agenda because we have a hard stop at 4:30 for David Williams. So we are going to continue to have Lisa be first, and then we'll do permits, sub area goals because that's important for David to hear, and then we'll just continue down. Order that's left. And I just want to say a few words. One is the first and important thing is to thank Leaf for her amazing service this past couple of years. She has been steadfast and unfailing in pushing us through with pandemic and organizational changes amongst ourselves, amongst the county, changes in venue, changes in technology, and helped us through a very. So thank you very much to Lee for.
Yeah, you guys are great to work with.
And
couldn't have done it without you.
I think that we are sort of arriving at a really exciting time for EPRC because of all the things that we're going to have the opportunity to finally bring to fruition, changes in the sub area plan, addressing and looking at all the changes that the comprehensive plan changes will mean for us and for the rest of the county, and weighing in on all the interesting and really needed topics that we really need to resolve, like housing and this litany of other smaller but important things about East Sound and the character of East Sound that that we've been holding on to for the last several years, and an opportunity to change. So I just hope that we can move forward, building relationships with the county, continuing to build trust with each other, to make open communication as frequent as necessary, so that we all know that we're on the same page, and if any little problems do arise, let's address them quickly. If I'm doing anything that is bothering you, let me know. I will address it, and we can becoming a bigger problem. So anyway, thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to. Oh yes, we have to approve the minutes.
No, wait, I would like to have two additions.
Okay.
One that just didn't get on the final agenda item is at the last, where we have committee member questions and announcements, because I know there's a couple of announcements. And then I'd also, before we start the permit review, I've been getting some correspondence. So I would like to add, before we do the building permit, some comments about a permit that we did last month.
Comments on the last month permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Announcements.
And add announcements to committee questions.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else have any agenda additions or modifications? Okay, okay. Has everyone had an opportunity should have had the opportunity to read the minutes? Could I get a motion to approve the October and November minutes?
I move that we accept them as presented.
Second.
Second. So you have to sit this one out, Brian.
Yeah, we don't need. Not required.
Of the approval of minutes. Oh, okay.
Of what?
General approval. Is that all that's necessary? Okay. Do we have general approval
Yes, on December.
on December's minutes
And January.
and January's minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Check.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Okay, well,
Never want to read these again.
okay, Lisa, we'll turn it over to you to tell us about the Patch project.
Oh, great, okay. So I'm Lisa Byers. Everybody knows me. I'm here with Heather Stansberry. Heather is the coordinator for the Coalition on Sheltering and Homelessness. And so we're both here to tell you guys about our very early thinking about a project that we're all working on. And I'll start the story by saying that this feels like one of those possibilities that exists because of the pandemic. During the pandemic, the Community Resource Center, the Food Bank, Community Foundation, and Opal all worked closely together to address emerging needs of what was happening in the community in terms of feeding people, sheltering people, paying people's rent, mortgages, addressing the litany of sort of different kinds of needs that arose. And as a result, we all started working together more consistently, and we sort of came to understand each other's organizations better and the needs of the community better. And so some of you may remember that let's see, the pandemic started in 2020. So in the summer of 2021, we did a series of conversations. They were all online. It was extremely frustrating, but the theme was, how could we come out of this hard time stronger? And how can we be, to use a buzzword of the day, more resilient as a community? And ideas that emerged from that were that the food bank clearly needed a more permanent space. That it was, they had done such a good job of sort of pivoting in the moment to meet the growing needs of the community. That they now have trailers outside of their space, and anyway. So they, unfortunately, I think, given the commentary that is on our society as a whole, but came to the conclusion that they need a space that is more permanent and slightly larger than what they have now. And related to that, it was a growing understanding about emergency preparedness for whatever future emergencies we might have as a community. And FEMA came to designate the Orcas Island Airport as their drop spot for services that might be delivered countywide. And the food bank as a partner for FEMA in that. And so the food bank was starting to think about what is the kind of storage capacity we might need in the event of an emergency to supplement what the market is able to do, the co-op, and that kind of thing. So that was one theme, and the other theme is that the Community Resource Center, the demand for their services has also just continued to increase, and they have seen a need for addressing the growing complexity of needs of people who are inadequately unsheltered or inadequately sheltered. And we can tell you more about that. But so they have identified that, like right now, they have the coach cabinets and people come to the outside of their office and they can invite people in for some oatmeal or a cup of coffee and to help them out if they need, services to try and figure something out. But that there's a sort of the value of having a place like a day center where somebody could come and use a computer or get a cup of coffee or sit with somebody to talk about how they might stabilize their situation, became more apparent as well. And then the need for housing is vast and across the full spectrum. And hopefully we're doing our best to try and work from very low income households and people who are struggling with being unsheltered or inadequately housed, all the way up through middle income. And so we see the potential of the McPeak's property as a place where we might be able to provide more. So we were aware that the McPeak estate owned the property and that it was likely going to come on the market, and started outreach to the attorney of the estate. And then last month, the property went on the market. And we had already been meeting to sort of say, well, if this happens, what do we want to do? And Heather took on the role of, among other things, meeting with all of the abutting property owners to say, we're starting this conversation. It feels kind of audacious and wild right now, but if it happens, what are your needs? What do you want to know? So, that's included the fun house, the children's house, Salmonberry, the senior center, the fire district, the St. Chainsaw Shop, the Christian school. So we sort of done the rounds of checking in with folks. We've had communications with Colin Maycock at the county about the airport overlay district. And I have a query into Mr. Williams and hoping that he can clarify a couple of things about permitting. So we're in the early days and we're starting to explore, and we want to let you know what we're thinking, answer questions if we can. Here's a little bubble map is what we're calling it, that Heather put together. Heather has many skills, which include bubbles. So it's an 11.3 acre property. The airport overlay district cuts diagonally across the property, and the northeast corner is the only part of the property that's not encumbered by either the airport overlay district or wetlands or wetland buffer.
The housing bubble.
So that's the housing bubble. And then, that stretches down to the bubble where we might have a building that would be a combined for the food bank and the community resource center. And that really, the synergy of those two organizations coming together in one place is in large part based on that there's a number of overlapping clients, and trying to think about what would make it easier for people who are in need of services. So what else would you like to add to that story?
I would say from the standpoint of the neighbors, it's been great, specifically the row of schools and how excited they are to be ordering something along those lines. Obviously, there are a lot of alternatives of what could happen with that property. So that was the notion of a buffer, as well as it's really interesting how they've come to say, we may be able to resolve some of our parking and different issues if we all kind of work together in the way that might be developed and included in the bigger picture. So that's very cool. And I would say that for the most part, the people get really excited. I will just say that I spent last Thursday and today we're collecting the count for our homeless and at a point in time, and people are vulnerably housed. And a lot of conversations. It was great to get to talk about this. And people are pretty excited, especially for the resource center to have its own home, permanent place, and that connection with the food bank. So I'm just echo that. But kind of exciting with the neighbors around and how they are excited to participate.
David, could you, Polaris, bring up, this?
I would love to on Polaris, but we're running into major issues with the network. So let me bring up Google Earth because it's working.
So, because I was, does property include this piece? Does it come up to the airport and then jog?
So here's one more little illustration.
It doesn't.
For you guys.
It doesn't. It ends.
I'm gonna outline it for you. So I'm gonna start down here at the funhouse corner. Okay. The property goes north up here to the corner with the senior center, Sandberry. Okay. And then west, jogs north. This yellow line demarcates the difference between service light industrial and village residential.
There's just a small strip of service like industrial
Yeah,
Green is really
on the west
fine.
side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that treed area that's,
And is that mostly wetlands?
well, we're waiting to find out exactly,
Yeah.
the wetland, survey just happened, so we'll have a report soon.
That was one of the questions I had, was service like industrial.
More than likely, yeah.
Is it delineated? How far in does that go?
That's what we actually just had.
Yeah.
So what we have a whole long list of due diligence things that we're doing. So the community foundation has entered into a purchase agreement with the seller. And now what's happening, if it wants to come in.
Say that again?
The community foundation has a purchase agreement on the property
Okay.
on behalf of all of us as a collective. And we're now going through due diligence of, an appraisal, a wetlands delineation, getting some survey work done, some hazardous materials testing in the buildings, and there's been a lot of interesting sagas on that property, so.
Yes.
That's a rich and very, there you go.
That it does.
It's got character. As a property go, it has a lot.
I have a number of questions. So,
Go for it.
oh, okay, all right. So David, you might be able to help in there. So when I heard about this, I just started looking at the piece of property, trying to educate myself about it. And it really has a lot going on there. It appears that it's 3 zones. It's 2 north, 3 inner, 3 outer, and then the northeast doesn't have anything. It's outside the planning zones. So then maybe to David, that in 2020, staff recommended that some of the regulations on the airport overlay be relaxed to coincide with DOT, I think.
Correct.
Was that incorporated?
No, it was not incorporated.
Okay.
What was recommended by the planning commission was actually a UDC update code change, not a comprehensive plan change.
Yeah.
We did build in a goal into the comprehensive plan to review the airport overlay on Orcas. So that's something we have, on the list for much later this year. But that's one of the things we have on our list to take a look at.
So when Adam came here, did that.
Right, yeah. So,
That didn't happen.
yeah, it didn't happen and I didn't know
It-
that. Which is
unfortunately,
unfortunate because the restrictions that you and I and a few others put in place are far more with floor area ratios, things like that are not in there. In
That
field.
said, we're confident based on email correspondence with Colin that what we're looking at
Is
is still
doable.
absolutely,
Oh,
is still
okay, great.
absolutely feasible.
Yeah,
So it's,
Well within the floor area ratios, like
yeah,
Even if it doesn't
exponential,
change?
yes.
Yes.
okay, good.
No,
Yeah.
just as is.
I mean, that's what I
So-
mean, even,
so
even if it's just like it is right now.
We're not needing anything to change to be able
Oh,
to do
okay,
it.
great.
We don't believe.
so this wetland buffer, is gonna be left in that same state and the other uses will be outside of that.
Cool.
In that green.
So I can't remember what the name of this street is right here that comes along here, but
Oh, right.
Oh, right.
Or, oh, Henry.
Henry,
Henry.
yeah.
so would your idea be to connect up to Henry so that this is all one
I
complex?
have not gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I think that would be a decision to make with the schools in particular. in the senior center, and, you know, I think there's a lot of folks who we want to get opinions from before.
Sure.
So how do you feel about pushing for those changes?
I don't think, from where I'm sitting right now in my
Doesn't matter.
evaluation, it doesn't matter.
Okay, right,
Yes.
because I would be in favor of it. Yeah,
There's a lot of allowable density on this property.
okay,
And,
all right.
and I think given the wetlands, you already have the wetlands inhibiting the ability to do anything. So
Okay.
Do you have any idea at this time how much of the housing, what the number would be or not?
we're looking initially at 15 to 30, although the density would allow for more. And our challenge would be.
Let's just hear.
So my other question is, the Crossroads people. Yeah, I think they have an association, don't
I
they? And
spoke
how,
with their president of their association. So we've had a
Who's
brief
president?
conversation. Of the cottages, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
who's president?
That is gonna escape me for a moment. I'm sorry. We had one conversation just to the introduction and say, I'm your gal to call with questions. She's like, I'm so happy to have you as a direct contact. So we spoke on the phone.
Because I know when that property was going up, potentially going up for sale, they were pretty nervous.
Yes, there were some people who had contacted her, and I think that was sort of right when we were reaching out to people. So it sort of coincided at that time. She's like, good to know. There's always lots of things, you know, that people hear, and just make sure that she knows she can call us to get the straight skin.
I think that's good.
And also we're so early in the process that we're still sorting out what's feasible. We're in our feasibility stage.
I think as all of us have experienced, you know, change is a little tough for some people in some of these areas. And so they are probably going to need a little extra hand.
Extra handling.
So David,
Mhm.
kind of hypothetical now, but under the DOT guidelines for airport overlays, as an example, in 2 North, it would allow 1 dwelling unit per acre and up to 75 people per acre. What does 75 people per acre mean?
Good question. It depends on the business, depends on how it's being used. You know, the 2 dwelling units is easy to calculate out.
Right,
We get into a floor area ratio on the buildings, what the occupant load of the building is established by the fire marshal and the architect.
right.
And that's what's going to drive that 75 people number.
Well, that
But it could really,
75 is only in the DOT recommendation,
Yes.
not in what's existing there now. Is
yes.
it- am I
I don't
correct?
remember the specifics of that, but
Yeah.
the county code identifies, it translates that DOT number of people into, as David has said, a floor area ratio,
Right.
and differentiates between a sort of a warehouse floor area and a retail floor area.
Yeah, there's 15%.
And it, you know, it changes from 2 North, and so from that, you can calculate the number of square feet in each area. And then obviously the puzzle is the number of square feet plus the open space that's
Right.
necessary. But as I say, in the math that we've run with Colin Maycock, there's like times as much square footage allowed in those zones for the food bank and resource center
Yeah, that's
than
great.
what is being proposed. So it leaves options, and there's other organizations that are like, ooh, we'd kind of like to be in on the story. And so that's good news,
Yeah,
that there's
it is.
flexibility
Yeah.
there, and.
County needs that.
Yeah.
What is this?
We'll trade you. Well,
Well, that's,
I'm all done.
okay,
Great.
okay. Well, it looks like there are different options too, as you got down about exiting and stuff. So it looks like there's quite the potential.
Yeah.
So I have a question to ask, out of my own ignorance, actually. Well, first of all, I'm really glad to hear that, you and I, Lisa, talked about that property a year or so ago. So I'm glad it's going in that direction. I think it's great. Thank you for bringing it to us. But I was looking at the sub-area plan yesterday, which we're about to review. And I noticed that one of the kind of special places that's called out in the sub-area plan is Lavender Knoll. I don't know exactly where Lavender Knoll is. Is it on the property?
There is a knoll on the property that's really quite, it's neat. It's just a neat feature. And there's like a cottage that's tucked in on the west side of it. Actually, cottage is probably a. You said a cottage. Yeah.
That's the old Curtis house, isn't it?
That little,
No, the big
No.
2-story one?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, no,
That's
no,
the
no.
old
I'm
Curtis.
talking about,
Oh, okay.
there's a little, like,
There's a living.
200 square foot building north of there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That I know has been inhabited for some but I think that's the future. I,
So is that away from your bubbles?
in anything that we've been talking about, wouldn't be built on or near, or in fact,
Where it basically has the incline. that
Right.
has a
Is
setback.
that, you pointed out on here?
yeah. Maybe now I can use your green.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right
It's
there.
pretty much the
Oh,
coolest
it's-
place.
Oh, wow.
So there's a little shack right there. This is the house, which has been a group house for a long time now. And then the guy.
Curtis is up here.
So is the Curtis house the one that used to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
moved?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's that one.
Yeah.
I think it's this white spot.
Nope,
No,
nope,
it's
it's
right
this one
there.
right there.
Is this one?
This is where the barn used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So did you see that? It's this.
Yeah. It's cool.
No reason
It
to
is a
think
cool
that,
piece of property.
no reason to think that the knoll would be disturbed or impacted.
I know, I think it should remain exactly as it is with a little space around it, and it would be a great place for kids to skate around.
Well, especially next to the housing bubble, it would be just a
Yeah.
nice outdoor night. So it's right, it's, David, it's just right between these two.
Yes.
Okay,
Pretty cool.
wow.
Well, just
Yeah.
keep us informed and.
Yeah, and if you guys, hear things or have a question that comes up, please, you can reach me. Whether you can.
The only thing that comes to my mind is thinking about site planning for future growth. And it's tempting to say, look, we could spread things out and have a lovely walkway that goes through here. But it would also be really great to have a level of density that you could later say, and for phase 2 in 10 years, we're gonna build
So
out
site planning.
site planning.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Thank you for bringing these. It's
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Okay, so let's go through permits. We've got an hour. Let's see, let me share my screen.
So do we want to start?
Sure. Go ahead. Let's see.
So David, we had a couple of questions. In the permit that we did last month, the hotel, when John was here.
Yes.
Okay, and so, since then, I was trying to, what I got from the, that is in our minutes, and on the recording that's, online, is this is kind of an outline of what, John Dunning said in our conversation. And there are 2 signs. There's one that's on the east side of the property that faces towards Buck Mountain.
Yes.
That sign is 8 square feet. It's 22 inches from the building. It's 16 inches across and it's 73 inches tall. It is lit from a spot that shines up from the landscaping at an angle towards the building. The question was asked to make sure that the light did not trespass to the sky. And John stated that the light bulbs are bird and environmentally friendly. John was not sure if they were dark sky approved, but David said they were. The second side is on the south side, which is on Main Street. The length of the sign is within the regulations for the width of the building. David does not consider the hummingbirds as part of the sign. He considers, we were talking about them being more of an architectural of embellishment rather than part of the sign because they're totally separated. He takes, David's comment about that was he takes the geometric form around the text as the literal sign, not the hummingbirds that fly above and below. It is also lit from a fixture in the landscaping. We were assured that the light will not spill upward past the building to the sky, which that was kind of more of what, without our lighting person at the meeting, that was, our focus was trespass of light going up. There seems to be some concerns in the community, and I did go down and take some pictures, and a couple other of us went down in the dark. And when you're standing on Main Street and you're looking at the building, there's no problem with the lights. But if you're standing on the other side of those fixtures, they're really bright.
On the other side is between the fixture and the building?
On the north side of the lights,
On the north side, if you just
Yeah.
walk in front of that,
Okay,
in between the lights in the building.
sure.
if you're in the adjoining property, which is either on the east or the west, it's not particularly.
They're very bright and they're very intrusive to neighboring property.
I can take a look at them. It was one of my stops for this evening on our way out of town. Just take a quick look at the pictures because I got 2 anonymous complaints about them. I believe they're fine from a cutoff point of view, from a dark sky compliance point of view. The question is any trespass glare going laterally to the side.
And it's laterally when you're in front of them. There's not any problem being directly in front
Well,
of the
and
building.
you have to remember, we look at it from the public right of way. So I'm looking at it from the street view forward. But if we've got that trespass going to the side, I can talk to John about putting some shields or something on.
Yeah.
them.
There's
Make a
some
minor change.
aftermarket shields that, that we found that you can just basically
Oh, yeah.
just
No,
attach that would block that.
they're
driveway.
simple, easy.
It's a pretty easy
fixes.
fix.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And as I said, that was on my list. It's one of the reasons I need to leave here at 4:30 is I got to hit that on my way down to the ferry. So,
So since you're going to be talking to him,
uh-huh.
one of the other things which I believe has been fixed, there was several public comments made about the lights of the individual properties for sale in the windows.
Yes.
And when I did walk down there after the movie the other night, they were really bright, but and then there was a lot of chatter on social media about it. And I noticed that when I got off the ferry Monday night, they've been turned off.
They were on again last night.
We do not regulate lights inside of the building.
I know we don't, but I just wondered if maybe
I can mention it to him.
could mention
Absolutely.
it to him, because I'm sure his employees were actually responding saying, oh, we should look at that. And right after that, they were turned off at night.
Yeah.
So they're pretty bright.
I can talk to John about it, but unfortunately, because they're behind the glass, it's unregulated.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, I'll talk to him about it. That's it.
yeah, I think he was very amenable to things when he was here, and it's,
No, they're reasonable requests.
I think it is too.
I'm just letting you know what my limits are.
I know.
I'm happy to ask the question, but I can't guarantee a fix.
It might go better,
Mhm.
because I don't know how big of a deal it is to just turn them off when they.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice if.
It'd be great if we just put them on a timer,
if
Or
put 'em
go
on
down
the
there,
timer.
you know, that's what I would.
Yeah, or
Get
just
dimmer
dim them.
lights.
Dimmer lights, or have them go off at 10 to 5 or something like,
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
what we were talking about with the other
Exactly.
outdoor lights. So anyway, it was just kind of blew up in
Happy
social
to chat.
media.
Happy to chat.
Okay, great. So on to,
Okay, so, oh, yeah.
I have a question. I have a question for David.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
So, David, what you're saying there then inside the glass, you have no control over. So
Zero.
a sign could be as big as it wants to be inside the glass.
If they wanted to put something on one of the walls in there and have it illuminated inside, they're good to go.
It can't blink though, right?
It's not supposed to blink, but
Yeah.
even that's questionable because again, it's inside the structure.
Or neon.
The sign code only applies to the exterior of a building. I like to use the example of Walgreens. You know, everybody sees the Walgreens with a giant tower on it. Well, the W that they have behind the glass on the second floor is designed to be intentionally bigger than any other sign that's allowed in the area. So you'll have a giant W, they have it brightly lit, and there's no sign code in the country that addresses that. It's an architectural feature that they've done to get around some of those lighting and dark sky and sign codes. But yeah, what Walgreens is the prime example. Go look next time you see a Walgreens.
You drive around town and you
Public
see
shaming
all
is the
the,
Yeah.
yeah.
All this time I assumed that was not allowed and it was just happening.
Yeah, it is allowed, yeah, so open signs and all of that, yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
But the thing that made it so that it's sort of somewhat then okay or tolerable is because they turn them off at night.
Okay, let's move on to the next, did anybody listen to you? Let's move on to the next one, so this is building permit 220603, the deck repair.
Yep.
At April's Grove, and anybody have any comments?
Mount Baker.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wild.
Sorry.
It's one of them.
Wild, or is it
No, it's-
yours? It's the building,
It
right?
is ours. We purchased that property 2 years ago. It's over by next to Napa.
Okay, got it, sorry.
You may remember actually that I think there used to be an antique store.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and a shop in the back.
Forgot about
Yeah.
A lot of
So anyway,
Okay.
we've been working on fixing up very tired, dilapidated buildings. And we have mostly it hasn't been a building code issue, but now we need to do a deck.
And somehow I don't think the site plan we have is correct, is it? That doesn't look like it, does it?
I looked at it before I came and I think so.
No,
Yeah,
you do? Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking it's a different building.
Well, it's a funny little property.
Yeah.
With 3 buildings on it. That's just to the west of the Napa Auto Parts and east of Airport Center.
That's Pennsylvania.
No. Didn't it used to be, what's his name?
John Rogers.
Oh, John Leiter's house.
Yeah, Leiter's,
I think
yeah.
McPeaks bought it from
Yeah.
Roger.
Okay.
Roger stayed, kept the yellow house.
Thank you.
Yeah.
so does anybody have any, anything?
My stepdaughter used to live in that.
No.
I've been in it many
All right,
times.
I think we can move on, no issues with that.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, so then,
Okay, so the next one is, the bill 220641, the hangar, ADU and office.
My system is crashing over here.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, because that's not what's on my screen anymore.
oh, why is this?
I can give it a shot. Do we want to see the site plan profile? Let me try
Sure.
to bring
Or if
it
you want,
up.
I can try to share my screen.
Mine seems to be a Wi-Fi connection issue.
Okay,
This is in Arrowview.
This is Arrowview.
Yeah.
It's the,
okay.
this is the 6,000 square foot hangar and the 1,000 square foot ADU with an office.
Right.
So comments or?
Yeah, let's-
Still bring it up.
I think we're just gonna have to have comments.
I'm stuck. I can't even launch it right
Yeah,
now.
so go ahead, Brian.
So I think there's some missing information on that. Not to say that anything is wrong, but setbacks, everybody addresses front setback as 10 feet, and actually it's 40 feet from center line. It's not shown on the plan. Assume it's correct, but somebody should check it.
Okay.
Is that for Arrowview? Or everywhere?
It's everywhere in SLI.
Oh, okay.
And I think maybe others. Also floor area ratio, 0.5. I don't know whether I didn't see it called out anywhere on the plan. It's a real big hangar, 2 stories in some places. So I don't know. Somebody should check it.
So what is that floor ratio supposed to be?
Yeah,
It's supposed to be 0.5.
0.5. And also, this doesn't include the, an office. This particular permit is not including the office, so we should make sure that they factor in the office into that consideration.
So,
Okay. Yeah, it says personal office will be assessed separately from the.
I understand.
So we should also ask them to attach, even though they aren't approved yet, the lighting. So when they're.
Right, and a
doing
lighting plan.
their
So
designs.
we're just gonna be asking
time.
practically every permit for a lighting plan.
I think I'd look sewer and water. Yeah.
There's a septic tank.
Yeah,
They would be,
they would have to have sewer.
I don't think Arrowview is on the.
It's in service and light industrial, so it has to be.
It's in the sub area.
So, yes, it has to be. They wouldn't be allowed.
They would have a septic tank in addition to.
Right,
You'd have a
The sewer,
second, yeah.
Yeah, hybrid
Yeah.
system, yeah.
Yeah.
because they only do the effluent.
Right, okay. Okay, any other comments about the hangar?
No.
Okay,
Just to throw it out here, one of the things we will be doing with this application and the review process is I am going to send it over to the port. I'm worried about the 7-to-1 navigation easement off the center line of the runway that we may be getting close to encroaching into that. So I'll be sending it to the port for their review and they can send it to the FAA as needed. But we have run into that on another property in very close proximity.
right, especially with the master plan for the airport calling for widening the runway, widening.
Yeah.
this.
There's when they switched to the caravans, it jumped up to a 7-to-1 ratio off the center line. So, you know, it's real easy to get into that for these properties that are really close to the runway.
So since this is service light industrial, Brian, did you notice about screening and buffers on this?
I didn't look at that. Good call though.
Well, I believe that they're sandwiched in between other properties and SLI, and so they're not required to put a screening and a buffer between themselves and another SLI property, only if they were.
Oh, on
If
the
they
residential.
were bordering on residential, then that would be required. So I don't think that's
They
required.
don't back on residential.
The back, that's a good point. I'm not sure about that. Let's see.
I can't bring up Polaris to save my life.
I'm
So,
feeling strong over here. Like compress your eyesight.
My hot spot.
yeah, I'm gonna just pull up the comprehensive plan and make sure that, no, it's SLI in front, back, and side, so it's all SLI.
Yeah.
So there's no concern
No
about that.
concern, okay.
Wait a minute though. Hang on just a second. It is this property, right? There's another one here.
What's the,
It's this one, right?
what's
Is it
the,
that one
what's
or
the, prop-
below?
what's the,
That's
Yeah.
This one right there. In
That
there.
one?
I think so, yeah.
that one.
Isn't
Okay,
it?
then that is, then that's completely surrounded by a.
And that plat may have some of its own restrictions and guidelines too. I don't know. Well, when Watch developed that, he might have, I don't know that.
There's likely some other plat restrictions.
Yeah.
The one we saw, if I can divert just a little bit, the one we saw last month, Paul,
Berthold.
thank you. He and I have had a lot of discussions over the last month about that because there were a lot of things not shown on that on the site plan related to that are driving a lot of design challenges for the property. The wetland wasn't delineated correctly. The buffer off the taxiway, we had to go into legal review because we wanted to do the hangar as a separate phase down the line. In that particular lot, in that plat, the hangar is the use. So you can't do the house
Right.
first. The hangar drives the use for that. But by the time we started looking at turning radiuses to come out of a hangar, turning onto the taxiway buffers, everything to accommodate the use of the hangar, we've had to shrink a lot of things down as far as separation between buildings. So we're getting very creative with the site planning of that to get everything to fit into that box. And we're likely going to do a reasonable use exception to allow him to go into that wetland a little bit for it. I'm waiting to see a final site plan from him, but a lot of design challenges that are coming into play. And as I'm looking right now at this one, I want to see what's on the ground on the other side, because I don't know that I could pull an airplane out of this and make that turn. So,
Right.
It's
So-
pretty tight. And this is a gigantic hangar.
Yeah.
That's twice the size it actually needs to be.
What is the size of it?
It's
6,000.
60 by 100. And normally we see 60 wide by like 40. Is a typical.
Curiosity, for that previous permit with the reasonable use exception, do they have to do mitigation when you give them that exception?
I don't think they're going to have to do any mitigation on it because there's nothing to mitigate. The lot's already been cleared for
So it's
years.
just in the buffer?
It's just in the buffer.
Okay, okay.
And so I don't think we're going to have any mitigation on it. And thankfully, the code does give us the ability to do a reasonable use, exception here. The house they currently are living in, which the port just bought that they're renting back, that house is going away. The port will be tearing it down. So at the end of the day, we're actually gaining ecologic function. We're gaining distance on the wetland because that one's only 30 feet away from the wetland.
Which property is that?
It's,
It's the one right next door to it. If you've got a map up, we're literally
Yeah.
100 yards south on this project from where that one is. Just got to go 100 yards north.
Across the street from Morning.
Still
It is.
more.
Are you the ones with the bonanzas? Or?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I used to own.
Everybody knows Robin.
Yeah, everybody knows
I
wrong.
love bonanzas.
Blue, white, and black, all of them.
Well, we have a new secret one.
Oh, yeah. What'd you get?
It's a beautiful thing.
What'd you get? What year?
Isn't it? It's a 64.
64?
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's an S.
yes, okay, I was gonna say like, it's a K or an S, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's our lifelong.
They're
It's
fun.
ours now.
That's.
All the rest is build and sell, build and sell. Don't get used to them because they're gone.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's move on to Bill 22-0698 residential addition. This is residential addition to an existing family home. Addition will be on the first floor and will include office space at 188 square feet, a bathroom with shower at 53 square feet, a small hallway, and an 80 square foot uncovered deck.
nothing will come up.
where was this? Isn't this in Bonnie Gray?
Yes.
Yes.
House that Terry built.
How does that,
Yes, yeah.
how does that work? I mean, because they own the house, right? So Opal doesn't have anything to do with it, sort of?
The ground lease says they have to comply with county code.
Okay.
So, and they are to, the ground lease also says it has to be built in accordance with the county code and by a contract, a licensed body.
What about setback?
And the setbacks, I think, are a question on this.
Yeah.
They're-
And I think they have to meet.
But that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
meeting the
Yeah,
county code.
they show them to me.
That was my question is, it has, and I'm not sure whether it's a side, it looks like a side yard setback, which is 7 feet,
Right.
which does not mean
No, side is 5, isn't it?
it's 10.
I thought the front was 10.
Am I on the right?
Yeah.
Yeah, side is 10.
East
Side
Sound
is 10.
residential, 2 per acre. No, wait a minute,
You're right.
that's not.
Wait, no, this isn't.
And just, I do finally have it up here. What I'm saying is that even if the setback is an issue, it is not, this addition is not making the condition any worse. It would be a legal non-conforming condition as it relates to the setback, if that is an issue.
What
Why would it be
They're not
illegal?
making it any worse.
Why is the illegal non-conforming addition? Because it's a new.
Yeah,
building.
it's a new, so.
Well, they're adding on to an existing.
but
So,
the-
so in other words,
but the
if I
existing
have a
The
setback
existing is not
here,
compliant. The existing is, I mean, the
The
existing building
existing
is
is
compliant.
compliant.
It
The
is
existing
But the
building
new
is compliant.
construction is not. That's not non-conforming.
Which direction are we going?
to,
I'm looking off to the
Well,
side, not to the rear.
Non-conforming always had to do with something that was the
To the left.
pre-existing,
That's
right?
right.
yeah.
So
So,
it can't be
so it's not non-conforming.
Oh, I got you. I'm looking at the side versus that corner. Yeah, that's something we'll take a look at.
Can I make an
We go ahead,
editorial
Melody.
comment here?
Sure.
That one of the things that we're finding, like in our next neighborhood, as we're trying to build at 12 homes to the acre in places where that density is allowed, with the parking, the open space, the stormwater, like we're gonna have to do a condominium because we can't meet the setback requirements for lots. And I think if the desire is to densify, it would be great if you guys, maybe you already have this on your list, but to sort of consider what are setbacks for and where do they, like there's a fire code issue, which I certainly, that's covered by the building code. But if, what are we trying to accomplish for the setback? This is really my
Well, that
question.
would be
We've
good.
talked about
I think that
problems
that's a
like that
really
in the
good-
past, yeah.
Good topic to talk about in our review of the sub area.
Restrictions on allowing density.
I hope you will come back and consult.
Well,
with
let's
us.
already have the conversation.
That's great.
Is that a county
Thanks.
one?
Yeah.
Is that a big county?
It's a sub, I just know that you saw
Sub-area.
sub-area plan, I don't know.
Sub-area.
It's a sub area?
Yeah, there's like minimum lot size and setback requirements, which I know, like in the village, there's a desire to create like light in between buildings and that kind of thing. But, again, I guess I've made the point.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, Lisa, is that something that could be an exception for density development, like a bonus? You think,
Why
or-
don't we wait for that
Or
conversation
David,
when you
yeah.
want to have that conversation? Yeah. And
Because
I would say in this instance, one of the questions that I would ask the planning department is that this is a property that runs on the commons land. And so does that make a difference in terms of the setback?
I think it does.
So.
Yeah.
I would hope that would be taken into consideration.
But you're right, we don't have a mechanism for that.
Yeah.
I mean, they have discretion that they can use at any time, but in terms of planning, if you hire an architect, they have to conform to those rules.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that there should be a mechanism for there to be some sort of give and take, especially if it's abutting.
Right, and this is like
Because-
a young family that
Right.
is growing and they've
Right.
got another kid coming and they want to be able to accommodate, so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree with that. There could be a variance if there were a physical, topographical issue there. But a young growing family is not a reason to aggravate setback
Yeah.
requirements, in my opinion.
But I think a lot of the reason that you have a setback is because you know that people are going to be building close to each other. And you want to make sure that you have a certain space between
Right.
buildings.
Right.
So if there's no possibility of there being a building on the other side of this house.
Because it's
then
common space.
That,
I see what you're saying.
that might be a
Yeah.
good reason.
So you actually, I think, would have to look at what that common space is being used for.
Right.
That would make a difference. If it's just an open field, that would be
Or if there's a
fine,
storage building. right?
but if it
So
was
it
something.
would be a variance.
Yeah.
Not the normal criterion for a variance, but it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, great. So, any other comments about this addition? Okay, so let's move on to the last one, it's the bill permit 22-0678.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks very much. Application is
This is the one that
practically
we got
no
part of,
information.
we got part of it last
I
time.
have something.
And
Oh, I know.
So
This
this is on a house.
fishing, this is on Fishing Alley.
This is a house that there already was a reasonable use exception made for its construction in a wetland. And so there's basically the existing driveway that came up and resulted in 2 parking spaces. There, a building will be built there that will encapsulate that end of the driveway abutting the house. And now there'll be a single driving, a single spot for a car. So this is and this is the farthest, literally the farthest way distance from the wetlands. But it does kind of really truncate this driveway that looks like previously crossed a buffer, and makes you wonder, like, if they're really kind of going down one parking
It
space.
said on there that they had issued something for the mitigation, when they would do that again with this.
Yeah, that was unclear to me. The application is very sparse.
Yeah, I didn't understand that since the garage is not encroaching.
Shared the password with you.
You mean the wetland
Sorry, I didn't
mitigation part of
notice
it,
that
is that what you meant?
before.
Thank you.
Ah.
Are we talking about adequacy of parking?
Well, yeah, so adequacy of parking, and then
They
if
only have to have 1 parking.
they had 2 parking spaces, and that was,
But it's a
I think,
single house.
Actually,
I
they
think you
said
do
they're
need
providing 3, 2 in the
It
garage.
says that they got
No, 1 in
3.
the garage and 2 in the driveway.
That's what it says.
yeah, it's kind of hard to see how that's possible with the width of this driveway. Where are these other 2 parking
You can't tell
spaces?
how wide it is.
It says 2 parking spots in the driveway and 1 in the garage.
Well, how do you count
I
in
don't
the
know.
garage? I mean,
That's a parking.
it's
That's a
a
parking
parking
space.
space.
Yeah, that's fine, but
Yeah,
if you have,
We never talked about that.
you
I
know,
know, that's,
2 cars nose to tail behind that, is that really a
Yeah.
parking space? I don't know.
Unfortunately, it doesn't say you can't block the cars in. Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Isn't what I think us would want to do, to cram them in there, but
Well, isn't the requirement 2?
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you had to build a new single family house and you had a driveway coming in off the road, you would have to provide full space for cars, not just say, well, we plan to, to put them nose to tail.
You know, 1 in the garage and 1 in the driveway.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
would-
But 2 in the driveway,
I think that they're only required 2
2
spaces.
spaces.
right,
Yeah.
I think so too.
They only have to have 2 and they're providing 3. They're saying it.
There's- Yeah, right, okay. Okay, well,
So
and then
that's,
I have one more question about this red line that goes up to the corner of the garage.
Mhm.
What is that?
I don't know. I was just looking at that.
That line, is that the edge of their buffer?
That's a good question. I
It
assume it was
probably is.
assumed it was a grade line.
That's the way I took that, when I was looking at it, I took that as the buffer for the wetland.
Okay,
They're
well,
all
let's
hard
just ask.
cement.
So
So
I'm
you
not
might be
sure
falling off the cement.
why they call that the wetland mitigation
I don't-
area on
yeah,
this
that's a good
plan,
question.
unless it's
Yeah.
an old plan.
well,
And that-
they must have had to have done that to build the house.
That's what I think, but the garage doesn't affect that. But did you say, Scott, that there's something about in the permit?
No, it says it on the plans here.
So the black line that goes through the garage and then through part of the driveway and then comes out to the left. And in that space of the driveway, there are also red hash marks on the on that. I think that might be in the buffer.
Yeah.
So between the red line and the black line, that could be a buffer encroachment, which is why they're saying that they're referencing the other.
Well, that's county staff gets to do that.
Yeah, sure, but we can ask.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So it says.
I don't know what they are.
County staff.
It says see wetland report, and we don't have the wetland report. so
Right.
county staff should see that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to look up what Joe had put on this. It's so to come up. Trying to see where.
Sorry, you can call.
Okay,
Okay. I
the
think
main,
we're-
so here it says the main residence and art studio was constructed in 13. At that time, an archaeology report and wetlands report was submitted. An addendum to the wetland report is submitted with this application since a small portion of a wetland buffer area is affected by this garage. The
That's-
wetland report describes 442 square feet of mitigation that will be provided.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So that answers that question. Okay. Yay. All right. And then the other thing is, as per usual, we'll be asking for a lighting plan.
Well, we gotta, and let me check if we can even legally ask for it right now. That's one of the questions. If we don't have it as far as a permit requirement, just say it's dark sky compliant, I don't know that we can legally ask for an additional lighting plan. I want to research that a little bit.
We can ask for a plan. It doesn't have to be a dark sky compliant plan. It just has to meet the current code.
So can't we, what we have done in the past, we haven't really stated it that way. We have just made a suggestion that this is what EPRC is asking the council to change, and it's the same as Lopez, with the exception of the time of when you have to turn off your Christmas lights. So we are hoping that it's going to be approved.
Mhm.
So we're just asking them that this is, so they can buy, they can look into buying the correct light fixtures, so they don't have to change them when
Yeah, that makes sense.
it goes into effect.
Yeah.
So it's just so I think we need to change that wording.
Now, one
We
of the
don't
things
need
we
a
are
plan, we
working
just
on,
need them to,
Well, I think that, okay, we don't have to request a plan. And I think that you're right, that we should indicate that change is coming and they might want to plan ahead for that. But they do need to go ahead and meet the current code. Which
a statement of must comply with dark sky regulations, to me, right now, is perfect. We are working on, in the chapter 15 in the building code, establishing a formalized list of requirements for all permits. And, that's something we can talk about including for the future. I think for commercial, absolutely. I think it needs to be there every day of the week. And then it's not hard to include in on residential, the example of what light fixtures you're going to be using and provide a dark sky compliance statement with that.
It's almost more important in residential as we become more dense.
It is, but in the industry, it's viewed differently. The commercial people don't even blink at it. Okay, it's this requirement, great, done. But we get a lot of pushback about, well, that's gonna, to do a lighting plan is $1,000 for my, engineer or whoever to do it. It's that pushback about the additional cost and requirement.
Right.
well, and just buying fixtures, because I'm trying to replace my fixtures. Let me tell you. it's-
I live all the way across the bay from her and she told me to turn one light on. So I did.
Maybe one in your bedroom?
No,
Just for
it was on my garage.
Just for- What's interesting, when I went on the mainland, I was asking this lighting company about dark skies, and this guy that was in there, he didn't even know what dark
Yeah.
skies were.
Well, and that's the problem is, even if you go to, Home Depot in Burlington or wherever, and you say, hey, I need dark sky fixtures. Dark sky for where?
Yeah. Well, and
Right,
that's the
because
other thing,
you-
that's urban, and that,
Absolutely.
I mean, that was our conversation.
Urban
doing it.
versus rural versus,
Yeah.
city of Burlington versus
Right.
Whatcom County or Skagit or
But
San Juan.
downward, so the easiest thing for me is that you can't see the bulb and they're downward facing.
That's,
Those are the,
that's the easiest way.
those are the two.
Yeah, can I see the bulb? Can I see glare?
Yeah,
Does it cut off at the property line?
so.
Well, I really wanted to share with you, yes, so I think we can move on to,
But before we get out of permits, can I ask
yes.
David a question?
Uh-huh.
David, a permit that we had done several months ago,
Mhm.
and with it was commercial, and with the screening is very specific according to the code. And, the building's being occupied and the screening is nothing.
Pathetic.
What
Which permit, what location?
aeronautical services,
It's on Seaview,
it's on Seaview. The trees are like 20 feet apart.
more than that.
And there's no depth to it. There's just,
The trees are about that wide too, and about 25 feet apart.
it's the brand new.
Yeah, there's zero screening, zero. Or,
So I didn't know, that was supposed to be part of the permit that they were supposed to supply that. So
Let me see what's going on.
is that, so do we need to do anything other than to tell you?
Just
Okay,
tell me.
perfect.
Tell
Thank
me.
you.
okay, well,
Now we're back.
the console that I had for Teams, I mean, I'm still here with you all on Teams, but for some reason it's gone. And I would love to share my screen, but that console is nowhere to be found.
Drop me off again too. Good news is the meeting's still running just fine up here.
That's fine.
All the hardwired stuff is doing great.
Is this your, where are you going with this?
I would like to share our, the sub-area plan goals document with everybody here. I mean, I have a hard copy here, without our edits in it. All right, give me one more minute. Maybe there's a way I can pull this up.
What were you gonna do, Charles? Did you
I was just
wanna-
gonna run through it, and I was also gonna ask, so we started to work on this document, a year and a half ago. And, I think that this should be public and that the public should be viewing this and as we make our potential edits. And, so I was, one question I was gonna ask is there a place on, the county website where we could put a draft document for the sub-area plan?
That people can comment on.
That, yeah, that the public can see and that we can make edits to.
I don't know. So there's two things. Can we put it on our website? Yes, I can throw it on the EPRC page. I can put the document up there. Any communication comment, though, it can't go to you guys because you don't have official county email addresses. So I run into an OPNA issue by having it go out to private emails. You have to have records retention. All of your personal email accounts get opened up for public records. So that's where I see an issue.
Can it
with
go to the EPRC
Yeah, we can
email?
have
Yeah.
an email.
We have an EPRC email,
EPRC at
Not a-
San Juan.
not a county.
Uh-uh.
It has to be the dot
Yeah,
code.
it's gotta be the .co. Yeah, you shouldn't be using ideally any
Well-
private emails or they're wide open.
Could we put it up there just static and say
I'm happy to put it up, I'm happy to put it up static on the EPRC.
review at the
page.
next EPRC meeting if you have comments or
Yeah.
concerns?
I can definitely put it up there, and do that.
Okay.
And you can send it out as a link.
Okay,
I'm trying to figure out a good way to capture comments.
PRR, you're gonna run into, even on a personal email account, you have to surrender everything somebody asks for. But Kendra uses something where her scientists can get in on it and can share a Google Doc, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if Amy let her continue to have that. The way we do comments for for comp plan is they all come through your office,
Yeah,
right?
we have a specific email address set up for comp plan that comes into to me and Sophia and Brooke, everybody.
Can it be used for sub-area plans, or is there a way to?
I don't know. Because I don't want to confuse the communication, because the way they're segregated out is that comp plan folder, and we just have a new address, by the way.
Yeah.
We just killed comp plan update before. The new one is out there. All of that's public records for the comp plan, which gets into the legal retention, legal defense of the comp plan. So, so I have hesitancy about using that email address to bring in anything unrelated to the comp plan.
Yeah, I think it may
Is
be even better that
I would
the
almost-
public can't comment, because you could get somebody out there who's gonna write 45 pages and that I'm not gonna have time to respond to everything.
No.
But if it could just be there in and we maybe, on a monthly basis, just repost it and its current incarnation, and then encourage people to attend the meetings if they have comments. That might be.
I think
Is
we're
that-
talking about two different things.
Yeah.
I think that we don't want to have an editable document posted. We
No,
might want
no.
to do a SharePoint among ourselves, but to post a public document on the county site would be great. And if people want to comment, they can just, write what they want and
Well,
reference the
Is
page
this
or
the
section.
streetscapes thing?
No, this
Sorry.
is,
No,
but
so
it is on the
there are
county
two-
site.
there are two.
Yeah, if you can find it.
I don't-
Suggestion of putting it under.
Yeah, so I don't mind posting a draft. Hey, this is being considered. What's your feedback? I don't want to say send us a written letter, but that would be a great way to track it.
Well, it's really not
Yeah,
we
but-
just want to post the current
The original
plan.
document, yeah,
This is not a
because we don't
draft.
have a draft.
What are you?
Well,
What
no,
are
we
you
do have a
posting?
draft. We have a draft.
I'm unclear on, I'm sorry, I'm unclear on what document you're talking
So
about.
there are two parts to the East Sound Sub-Area Plan.
Okay,
There's the goals and policies document
okay,
that talks about the history of East Sound and what we want to accomplish, and that's the one that we're starting with. And then there's the one that's all the code,
The regulations.
all the regulations, that doesn't have any of the goals and such. And that's what's part of Title 18.
Chapter 18, yeah.
Yeah, Chapter 18.
okay, so how does that speak to the defensibility and history of the comp plan? Because it's directly related to this, it's directly coming out of the sub area.
It's a sub-area plan, but I want to be able to separate them out from a topical point of view for aiming.
Okay,
Because right now I'm in a massive public records discovery mode, because we had one singular comp plan case challenged. Knock on wood. The entire comp plan went through without a single challenge, with the exception of one land use designation change. That one land use designation change is generating hundreds of legal exhibits that we have to present to the Growth Management Board because of public comment. So that's why I'm just a little gun shy for the management of the public comment, because I envision if I fast forward 3 years with the new comp plan, I could be going through all the EPRC comments for your sub-area plan in court.
Yes.
So, David, would this be an alternative suggestion? Is that actually
Sorry, Siri was commenting on it.
on our EPRC, if you go to EPRC,
Mhm.
where the minutes and everything is, if we could have a link
I'm
right there to
I'm
the
happy to do
sub-area plan, then we could say, EPRC is reviewing, this year, EPRC is reviewing the plan. Send your comments to the committee.
That's great. That's good. And I like that. The other part is that I just want to make sure that, when we're sitting in this meeting, we're not really going through line by line and making adjustments. What's happening is we're all looking at it, and then we have comments. And so we're marking up, we have this one document.
And
I don't want that to look like a meeting.
And that's a problem.
Okay,
So, because you're doing it outside of the public records realm.
right. So that's why,
It-
I was suggesting.
It's kind of an ad hoc open meeting violation. What I would suggest is independently go through, make your own corrections.
Mhm.
and then set aside some time at the EPRC meeting every month to say, hey, everybody, this is what I'm thinking on these sections, so that it's being done in the open format.
Okay, well,
Um,
that's kind of what we've done so far.
Good, okay.
So we haven't, aside from everybody has seen my comments, and now I have Brian's, and, so, but we haven't been,
Let
hasn't
me
been
see,
that
let me see if I can create, if I can have IT create an EPRC specific email for the purposes of capturing those comments on the
Okay.
staff level, on our servers. Because if I can funnel everything into a San Juan Co email for that, then we maintain all the public records. There is no issue. And, we can then distribute those out on a monthly basis, or, however we decide to do it. But then I've got them cleanly segregated away from the comp plan stuff and the development code and everything else I've got running right now. I've got to be able to segregate them out from a legal point of view.
Okay, so
So-
we would then post the plan and just ask people to comment.
Exactly. I can
Such and
point
such as
people
San
to
Juan
say, just throw
EPRC,
comments
San
in
Juan
here,
Code.
and then we can distribute those monthly. Sophia can do that easy enough.
Do you think that's better than having it?
At least so the spam shows up.
To just email us?
Or,
Sure.
it is, because if they email you, you have
No,
to.
they can email the EPRC.
Yeah.
but because that's not a
not
county
county.
thing,
Yeah.
then it
Then
opens up.
Sally can't, well, not Sally, who's the new public records officer, can't get to it.
Right.
So I actually, if somebody emails me on county business, I will forward that to my county email from out of my personal email account if they write me on the,
Mhm.
on my personal email.
I
So,
think what David's
Yeah.
suggesting works well for us.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's
and-
try
and-
it and see if it
Yeah,
works.
and I think I can make that happen. We just have to ensure that communication is clean. The county right now is doing hundreds of public records requests a year. I mean, that's about the last number I heard. The lion's share of those comes from DCD and the sheriff's office. We are the highest generators of public records requests. And it's for stuff like this. It's for, we want all emails related to EPRC. We want all emails. So there's a ton of data mining behind the scenes that our public records folks do all the time.
Well, I don't
But you
want to
don't have
cause
the
you
schools.
anymore.
What's that?
Good you don't have the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Tell me
well,
about
I mean, it's
Tell me about it.
really expensive too.
Yeah.
I don't.
But let me see what I can do on that.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
but that would be good too, because then if you do get stuff, if you get people in the community who are emailing you stuff on EPRC,
Yeah.
and you've got a record, or emailing you on your personal accounts, and you've got a record that your pattern is then to forward it to the EPRC county mail, then that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
But Charles, if you want to email me or whoever's going to do it, email me the documents in PDF
Mhm.
format ideally, so it's locked.
These are Word, is that okay?
Send it to me. I can convert them. It's no problem.
Okay, okay.
And then I'm happy to post, if you want to send me some language of what you would like on the website to say, just a simple paragraph, bullet points, whatever you want on there. We can go through and create that. So
Okay.
give me a week or so. We can make that work.
My feeling is that the comments that I've seen, and certainly that I've made, are too preliminary to want to post.
Well,
We'll have some discussion.
okay,
I'm just posting original document.
For now.
well, the original document is online. I mean,
Well,
they
but-
can find
Yeah,
that.
Well,
but put it on
Okay,
an
okay,
EPRC site.
yeah, but we could go around, we could go through and say, hey, look, we're looking at, modifying this document. Here's the original. We'd love your comments at
Okay.
EPRC at San Juan.
Because it's really hard to find.
Yes, yeah, we can do that though.
Okay, so.
And then not to put any time on anybody, I got about 10 minutes.
Okay, so I would like to go over some of our ideas of changes for the goals document. I'm sorry that I have failed at being able to get teams to allow me to share this document.
I think that's our Wi-Fi here tonight.
Okay, but,
Yeah.
He's stuck.
It's,
so there are,
tell you what, Charles, turn your camera off on Teams.
There you
Oh,
go.
there it goes. Oh, just dropped.
There you go.
So,
It's really slow.
We're pushing a lot of bandwidth through this room right now.
so there are some important parts of the goals document that are way out of date and that need to be changed. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things for you, David, and then we'll let you get out of here. So there are some policy statements about land use and conformance with the Growth Management Act that we think we probably need to work with you to update, because I'm sure that that wording is going to need to change. There's also a reference in here about providing a tangible vision and direction for the future of East Sound, but that has never happened, except that we did have this group that met in 2017 and created a vision document. So if there could be a way to incorporate an East Sound vision document into our goals.
I don't see a problem at all. Let me throw it out to you this way too, because the meeting we had right before this one, we were talking with all the tree harvesters, arborists, on the islands here and then multiple other islands. The common theme that came out of that meeting is, for all of our tree codes, is a lack of vision of where we're going.
Yeah.
So, that was the takeaway that I had from that meeting today, is to say, for a healthy forest, what should this look like in 25 years or 50 years?
Yeah.
We're so overgrown in many areas, and I put it back at them. What does it look like? I don't know. Do we need to do thinning? Do we need to do, more planting? But I think that's the lens to look at. What do we want East Sound to look like in 25 or 50 years? And really look at it that way, because it gives us a target to aim for.
And that's actually what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charles, can I just comment on what you're saying?
Yes.
Because if you're calling out some of the things that I highlighted, just to say that many of those I highlighted because I think they're good.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Sure.
But they've never really been addressed in the code. They've never been implemented. Stuff on parking, for instance, which we all know that we've got to tackle.
I agree.
So there's actually my general impression reading the sub-area plan again, and it's been a while, is that it's good.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. And I think that there are some things like, what were you going to say?
I agree with Brian.
Yeah, there are some things that we definitely need to update, like, there are references to agricultural land in East Sound that needs to be cut out. That was something that John pointed out to us. But then there's also issues such as, urban gardening and such that we need to support.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we need to have some changes in that language. And then it references in here the payment in lieu of parking plans, where that needs to be stripped out and changed. There are also some images of East Sound as we would like to see it that need to change. There are, ideas for putting paths on that we've already implemented. That those should get stripped out. There are ideas for putting streets through land that is now owned by the land bank and should not be putting roads through there. So we need to update those images. We would like to put goals around lighting in there, broad goals, like we should be, trying to pursue light trespass issues and such in dark skies. And then, so that then when the county implements actual regulations, those will jive. So I think you need to go. So
No, I got 5 more minutes.
Five whole
I said
minutes.
4:30. You got 5 more minutes of me, so unless you want to throw me out.
So
Is there anything else in these three that we don't?
I don't think we need to review
Him
streetscapes.
from
I mean,
okay.
That's more of a Colin.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to his wheelhouse.
Okay.
So, so let's see, dark skies, description of the different areas. There's a great part of the sub-area plan goals that talks about areas that are descriptions of a conservancy overlay district that identifies different areas in East Sound that should be protected. And so there are some places where, such as the Knoll that you pointed out, and Victory Hill and such, that that need to be updated. There are references to parks that have been greatly expanded since then. That also talks about the trees along Lovers Lane, coming down to Main Street. And I know that those trees could be at risk of future widening of that road and such. So we want to definitely, call those out.
Also talks about the trees on the North Beach entrance,
Oh, yeah.
Right, right.
former trees.
Yeah.
So we'd also like to put in the things that we discussed with you about potential trails, and to highlight those and have images of various trails that we think should be, prioritized. And that leads us into the next issue, that is your letter.
Oh, yeah. So here it is. So everybody's in agreement. So
Would you like to read it?
we just need to.
Sure.
Well, we just need to nail.
Is this the letter we want?
No, that's not the letter.
I don't have it.
Trails
I
letter.
support
Oh,
that.
sorry.
too. While we're finding the letter, let me just make one
I
comment
don't
to David
think this is
specifically. that
whatsoever that it goes through.
In looking at this plan, the one thing that really needs, or would love to have updated, is the maps, which are really hard to read, mainly because the main streets aren't called out, and I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be great to have them a little darker with street names, so.
I would love to have all of the maps, whenever we start touching them, to have GIS go through and redo them and try to modernize them a little bit. What I see on all of the county maps is old GIS styling, old GIS layers. We just gotta go in and modernize them, clean them up. As I look at the map behind you there, we don't need all those layers. At a certain point, you just don't need all of the
I go
layers.
back and forth between the map and the legend.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
As the last order of business that pertains to you, David, we have a letter that Brian wrote that is in support of EPRCs, recognizing that we need to emphasize these bicycle and pedestrian trail connections, and that we support the pursuit of these five trails as being priorities in East Sound. And we plan to send this to Cindy for council.
Perfect.
So we all.
And then,
When to just call
And-
it the trails.
And since you want that to go to salary,
okay, and I'll call out the trails, and they are Lovers Lane from Main Street to
Yeah,
Mount Baker
council,
Road,
and
with
it's gonna
Opalco's
call them.
participation, which would be fantastic. Enchanted Forest Road east from Lovers Lane to Orion. Mount Baker Road from Blanchard to Lovers Lane Corner. To improve the existing informal trail from Lovers Lane to A Street, from Orion through the Athletic Center to connect to A Street. And then the Crescent Beach Road, north side from the eastern land bank parking lot to the western lot. So those are,
Are those in priority?
No,
They're
not just a group.
just,
Okay.
just the top five.
Can you determine a priority? Because basically what this is gonna do is I'm just
They
gonna,
really are.
we'll turn around and hand it to Colin.
Yeah.
One day when we have
Yeah.
money.
I think we'll say that they are in priority primarily because of Opalco's potential participation on Lovers Lane. And that,
And the Enchanted Forest.
because of their need to redo power in that.
But we're not pushing it, but we will.
Right,
We
but
will
we
participate.
would like to.
They
participate.
are they are.
Cindy, isn't the priority sort of opportunistic? That is, when you get money for it, when you get to it, when there's a road widening or whatever.
And
That's why
well,
we didn't. put
if you put a priority on it, then when money comes, when a grant opportunity comes available, then I think Colin has a better idea of which one to pull out the shelf and ask for. If there's other logistical things happening, then I'm sure he'll skip down the list, but
Yeah,
if it's just purely a matter of what does the
Yeah.
community want first, then.
I think we would have to have more discussion to determine priority. I mean, personally, I would say one of my priorities is would be the Crescent Beach Road Trail,
Mhm.
simply because it was on the last tip and it's disappeared. It's no longer, so,
Because it wasn't funded.
yeah.
Well, but it's not that we did the grant and
But the
everything
tip is still get funding.
for
so-
the. and-
Well,
because
but they were given instruction to, as I understand it, Cindy, was that they were given instruction not to put anything on the tip that wasn't funded, that wasn't already funded. So that's why it was not included.
Okay,
Yeah, if there's not funding, there's no point in having it on the plan. Because that people have an expectation then that it's gonna get built
yeah.
and it's not. If there's no funding source for it, it's just not gonna get built.
Happens
It goes on there's a different list that it goes on into.
Priority, right?
Normally you put things
Yeah,
on the tip in order to try and get funding for them. Right, I understand your point.
Yeah. That was-
Is
Works both ways.
like the 6-year road. Isn't it?
Well, there's a priority array and then you get, then there's the plan. And so you, as I understand it from Colin, so you pull it off, once there's actual dollars, then you put it on the tip. And that's because that's really really tells him to be planning for labor, materials, engineering.
But we also really thought for
Yeah, well,
around
let's,
town that these two, the Enchanted Forest had money
That
at one
had
point.
funding too.
But, and then the Lover's Lane these were real safe,
And-
the biggest
yeah.
safety issues.
and there had been recent improvements to the Crescent Beach Road
Right.
Trail, at least part of it, but not all of it. Well, so I think that, I mean, let's talk about our priorities really quickly and then vote on sending this out.
If I may for just a moment, Cindy, can I borrow you real quick for the
Yeah.
console here?
It is, okay, I can live with it.
This is just, yeah, like, we won't forget, you just need to stop.
Okay,
I'll take care of the recording, everything's automatically.
okay.
We just need to hang up in this room.
So all I do is have to press the red button
Just press the red
and
button.
this lives here.
It lives here in this room.
Okay.
So I would,
And from there, I can remotely take care of everything else we need to do. Come on, y'all.
Yeah,
maybe to-
the first two were
Thank
right
you.
on.
yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
David.
I'll go chat with John right
Have
now.
a good evening.
Thanks.
Take care.
Let's move it to 3.
Okay.
Okay, so, do I hear a motion to accept the letter that, Brian's written on behalf of EPRC, with the inclusion of moving the Crescent Beach Road Trail up to the third in the list of priorities?
So move.
I'll second.
Thank you. That's good, Chris's.
No, I'm good.
You get it.
On my computer.
Okay, you get it.
I'll
Okay,
fix it.
well, sorry for the very long delay and,
Can I ask?
yes, yes, yes.
Trails committee. There's a trails committee on Lopez and there's a trails committee on San Juan. And, we appear to have a congressman who's very interested in funding trails.
Great.
So I'm wondering if there can be, should be, if anybody's interested in organizing a trails committee for Orcas.
We've been wanting one.
You know, I would be interested in participating, but I don't want to lead it off. I do have a bunch of names that I've kind of picked up from comments on social media on trails and other stuff over time that I could give to somebody, and I don't know who the point person would be.
Yeah, and it's not, to my knowledge, none of these are official county committees. They are citizens' interest groups that then would come to, for instance, EPRC or to call on our council with.
There's somebody out there.
I thought Margaret Payne
Because
was
I,
doing something like
I
that.
think it
Yeah.
was.
She's on a county committee for,
Who is
she,
she?
Margaret Payne.
Margaret and, Oakson, Heather Oakson.
Heather, oh, okay, I
They're
can check
on
into
the-
them.
They're on the, Parks and Trails, or what is that called? That
Parks and
Brandon-
Fair, they've got,
Parks
they've
and
got,
Fair.
yeah, they're Parks and Fair. So if there's, if they've already got some kind of interest in trails, maybe I should check into them and see if they're
And
interested in doing.
Margaret-
something.
Especially.
Margaret lives on Lover's Lane, and so she's
Here
a
in Shannon Forest Road.
very strong advocate for trails.
It was Margaret who got the grant for
She
Shannon
wrote the
Forest.
grant.
Yeah,
And,
right.
That we got.
Too bad it disappeared.
She'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, this is a problem, is that there was a lot of sort of inadequate funding for that, so things got on the tip that were promises that couldn't be kept. And so that's sort of where the reset button had to be.
Well, we got the grant to build that trail, but then it got
I think
stuck with,
what
because
happened-
the end of it got into
Yeah.
the swale, and Colin said then it
Yeah.
turned into this huge
Yeah,
thing.
we didn't ask Colin what the cost was. He'd given us parameters.
Yeah, we had
And
the
then we
money.
got that. But then in more research, they were like, oh, well, that's not gonna be enough.
Right,
And
yeah.
then it died, and then we lost the money.
Well, it wasn't that it wasn't
Yeah.
enough, it was just that it took more mitigation. It took a lot
Yeah.
more staff time to deal with the swale. It
And I
wasn't,
think
So
that
not
they were
enough.
gonna have to hire somebody else
they
to
just,
to do the mitigation for.
So my suggestion for a trails committee would be, as I say, I have a bunch of names and I don't even know all of these people. They're just names who have made comments that are really supporting the trail. Is that we find a point person and just all beat the bushes and ask them to contact whoever is the point person.
and have a meeting.
I'd be willing to attend, but I don't.
Yeah,
I
I
wanna
feel
hit
the
it
same
up.
way.
I guess the thing would be is just to put it in the paper that, we're gonna have a meeting,
Do you want us to
but I don't want to.
beat the bushes and put something out in the paper, or do you want us to?
Let me follow the lead with Heather first, with
Okay.
Heather and Margaret, and see what if either of them has the juice to head it up,
Okay,
because they're both pretty good at community organizing, they're gonna do
Yeah.
it.
Margaret
So-
was the one that was really
Yeah.
involved in that, more.
And then if that doesn't pan out, yeah, let's make a plan.
Okay.
to-
Cindy,
Another one would be
you
the
let me know?
section.
And
Yeah.
if one of them is, then I can do that. I could put something
No,
on
but he would-
social media,
he would participate.
Orcas
Yeah.
discussion forum, something like that.
Yeah.
He
And I'll
might think
definitely
he's-
would-
I'll connect you and get out of the way, because that's, like I said, it's not an official county thing at all.
And I know
Yeah.
both of them, of course. So
Grassroots
that'd be great.
civic organizing.
He's already talked about.
okay, so I think that we can
Uh,
finally get around to Cindy's update, which should have been first, but thank you for letting us do all these other things so we could utilize David's time.
Okay, what have I got to say? The most important things to know about right now are probably that Jane Fuller is going to start working on transportation for the county. So our new council member is gonna, she wants to, she's got a tooth for it and she wants to take it on. So that is gonna be her baby. And I don't know yet. I just got another contact about something to do with transportation that I need to check in and see if she's, I know, somebody's asking about golf carts. And there's some other stuff. So I want to find out from her how deep it goes. By transportation, does she mean not only ferries and charging stations and things, but also multimodal, trails and.
I think if you get into golf carts, then you get into side by side,
Side-by-sides.
you get into, yeah, that's risky.
I mean, we already have a
Well,
problem with motorized.
Cindy, can I ask you a question about that? Because I think that's very relevant to us
Yeah.
just in East Sound. So you had a plan or I guess a deal at some point last year for a rickshaw service in town.
I tried.
It didn't pan out.
It didn't pan out.
I met the guy at some point. talked
Yeah.
to him. That was really interesting,
Yeah.
but I think something like that, just local transportation in East Sound is a really important thing, and would be important for this committee to help with it. Something-
Yeah, there's nothing preventing a private entity from doing that
Yeah.
at all. It was just a matter of, I couldn't get council to come along with me on the idea of getting it off the ground. for
They wouldn't
summer.
authorize it?
They just weren't into it,
A
yeah.
couple of years.
No.
So maybe that's changed.
Yeah.
It changes. Great.
So. We'll see what happens with that. Okay,
Okay.
Other than that, I am gonna go to Washington DC for the National Association of Counties Conference in mid-February and take the issues with me about getting about I don't know how wonky you want to get on it, but there's a lot that has to be discussed about climate change and managed retreats. And the way that it's funded right now is through the federal government. You can't get that money through highways. You have to get it through FEMA. And there's rules about it's very reactive instead of proactive. And there's some programming that's starting to address it, but it's just a conversation that local people need to keep bringing up with state and federal authorities, is that the way that the money needs to come, especially to small counties that don't necessarily have state or federal highways, is it needs to come in development grant, or not development grants, but in roads grants, and they have to be usable for moving the road rather than trying to hard armor the shore and basically shoveling sand most of the time. So,
Can I just mention something in that regard?
sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but FEMA has something, I think in fairly recent years, they've had it for a while, called pre-disaster mitigation planning.
Yes, that's-
grants. Okay,
yeah,
you're aware of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that would be the direction I would think in terms of
Yeah.
climate stuff.
We've had some trouble with that, with how they want to give those grants.
Horrible red tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's at some point, we need to bring regulation into line with reality.
We did a 6-year fire fuels mitigation plan for our district that worked for with that money. And it was, well, it paid for it. It was a lot of work.
Well, so along those lines, one thing that FEMA does require of the county is to have maps showing what's going to happen over the course of the years for flood risk, for sea level rise. And so that study is actually, hopefully we'll have the data for that sometime in June. And that will tell us a lot about where we should be making investments, where we shouldn't be. And also there is part of the Growth Management Act and really FEMA regulations that says that we should not be issuing building permits for areas where it's anticipated that people could lose property or be endangered by flooding. That's a really interesting question because buildings are expected right now to last 75 years. So in the course of the comp plan, we started to talk about that. What does that really mean? That could mean things when that plan comes in, like no more permits on North Beach. So that's something just to be aware of, that could be.
Did you say North Beach or Crescent Beach?
North
You mean
North Beach. Well, Crescent Beach, definitely not. We know that already.
You can't do that
Yeah.
anyway. It's all
Yeah.
wetlands, so.
What if there's some high ground that isn't in FEMA area, and they just redid this like 2 years ago already
It's not right.
out at our place?
Uh-huh.
So when you're saying on North Shore or North Beach, is it complying with what we already know that we aren't in FEMA?
I have no idea how to answer that question, honestly.
Because otherwise they're just blanket, we're North Shore and
I'm
water
sure,
rising.
I'm sure that it would have a, I mean, I'm guessing that it would apply to, place, parcels of certain heights, if you were lower than 50 feet, for example.
The 100-year.
Well, part of our land
And that layer is shown on it.
is Terrell Beach, and that's wetland, but our property was exempt. And way back when, in the tsunami of '64, it didn't hit us then, so.
Yeah.
So it would be
Well, that-
more on undeveloped property or modifying, rebuilding
Adding
some of
u-
the buildings
Adding dwelling
there.
units.
Most
to-
of it's I think most of North Shore is pretty well built out, so,
Well, it's like where Jason was, that's high bank type.
well, but according to the code, you can't build
Well,
30 feet, so,
Do you
so
know,
so I'm not sure that it would really particularly affect.
I don't think we know until we get that data from the,
I mean,
do you
it's-
know if
That's real
that
scary when you
includes
just
tsunami data, like those tsunami maps
well, that was
well, what we've got right now is we've got a consulting firm that's actually coming in with very detailed questions about seafloor in different bays and in different parts of the county that are obviously at risk. And things like taking into consideration predominant weather patterns in terms of storm surges. All kinds of things there to consider. So just knowing, just be aware that data is coming and will be affecting to some degree
that could have
what
a
our plans are.
big
It
effect
could be,
on the size of the sub-area
could
plan.
be,
Yeah, it could.
could be
It
devastating.
really could.
It could, it's because of that 50 to 75 year time horizon. It's really a question. And the other question is the airport.
Right,
It's the what?
the airport.
The
That would be right. Can't even have an airport there.
Right.
Want to do that.
Part of it's below sea level in the middle. Yeah,
Well, all of the East Sound is the lowest point on the island.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
easy access.
So we'll find out what our projected fate is.
Well, bring in the
That's
fill,
scary.
load the dump truck.
Yeah, everybody moved to Olga. Yeah.
That's way down south.
You have to have a visa to get there.
Well,
we have a rickshaw to get you there.
yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
do
so
you have
that's-
anything else for us, Cindy?
I don't think I can follow that.
Okay, great, thank you.
so much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now it might be a good time for public comment.
I'm the public.
You're it.
I've
Go for
enjoyed
it.
this meeting thoroughly. That's my comment.
It's so nice to have you
Come
here.
again.
Yeah, actually, I've got, like a dream project, and my dream project has been since like 1994 to build housing in Orcas Island, and we own the property there on Shannon Forest Road and Lover's Lane, the airport overlay knocked that dream off the map. And so now I have my 6-7 acres of commercial property next to the post office, and that's where I'd like to build some apartments, so that's my plan, and so I'm gonna just start figuring out how I can make it work.
What's your zone, your
Commercial.
commercial?
No.
No,
Next to the post office.
no, it'd be
Next to
DRI. No, it'd be,
No, it's village commercial.
It's village commercial, yeah. Right.
And from what I've seen, if you have
Sukin.
more than like 5 units, it's called commercial real estate.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure, how many I can build. I know I can probably get money for whatever we can do. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about the money part. It's like, what am I allowed to do? Considering parking. I talked with Steve Smith about a year ago, and he's like, well, we could put 60 units on, but it's like one big blob with underground parking, and then we needed more parking or something like that. Because he had a vision that he wanted to like buy the land for me, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
Sure he did.
that's not
I'm
very
sure.
good looking. Yeah.
So what
You
we,
must have a copy or have seen Zukin's plans,
Yeah.
right?
I do, but his plan was basically like an L-shaped building with commercial underneath and 5 apartments above.
Yeah. Is it only 5?
It was only 5.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we need more
You want to-
housing.
That's
We're
great.
4 to 40
Yeah.
per acre there.
that is
Yeah.
such,
Yeah.
that is such an important place in East
Everybody can
Sound.
walk to work.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
And one of the things,
Yeah.
wait, hey, get ready.
Here it goes.
No,
so
I'm just teasing you.
one of the things that we've been looking at is how sort of precarious the walkways are that go through your property up to Orion and
Yeah.
down to Outlook. And one of the things that we were considering exploring with David's help was seeing if the property owners in there, you would be amenable to allowing there to be a right of way for the public to walk there.
I think isn't there a
I
right?
think there is.
Well, in areas, yes.
It's an
but-
existing,
Isn't
On
it
the
from
west
Orion
side, west
to-
end of it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, from Orion and then it goes
Right.
across where the athletic center is. So Clyde owns the
Yes.
athletic center property
But
and I
on-
do the
But
other
on your
one.
side, where that one path is
There's the one from, so it kind of needs a little bit of help on my property there. anyway,
Yeah,
because- and
as
then-
far as I know, the county owns A Street up until the edge of your property, like almost right.
Actually, it's to the edge of, sort of like right to the end of the movie theater.
Right,
And
right,
then that goes to
Exactly.
Clyde's property.
right,
And then my property, I only have that driveway from across from the movie theater.
right.
So
So
I have
north,
an easement coming.
oh,
So are you working with anybody that has some sort of a conceptual idea of what you want? Are
I
you
have a
there?
conceptual idea of what I want.
You know what
Yeah.
you want?
Kind of, I'm conceding. I'm not conceptual yet.
So what
Uh-huh.
has happened in the past is actually, people have come with us with their architect with,
Yeah.
and saying, look, this is one more step forward from where you are.
Yeah.
This is, because I don't know if you want to pay to have those drawn yet, but several people have brought their drawings to us and said, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then we were able to tell them, what they needed to do, or what would be questioned if they were to
Right.
submit that permit. So when it happened,
Yeah.
that it was much faster.
Well, and that's why I'm coming to you guys first, because I just sort of want, so basically this is how far I've gotten. It doesn't pencil out to be $6.
Yeah.
Can't, like, you would have to charge so much rent, and I don't want to be, I'm not Opal, that's their thing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna just it's gonna be private money, not government money. So my general contractor is my son-in-law, Josh, who will work for property, so, and, for buy-in. And so we went out to Idaho to check with Stratford Building, and they do modular building. And so they build everything in the factory. We were very happy with the quality of product that they were using. They do a great job. The company's been around for 30 years. They started in Wisconsin. They work with the Department of L&I for Washington State. So everything is checked by L&I. They ship to Alaska, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington. There's 2 homes on Orcas Island right now that they did. And they also did Bill Wolf's building that he sold to the dentist. That was one of their projects, so. So what I have to do, of course, is make sure all the infrastructure is in place and that we've got our foundations. They ship to here, then my general contractor takes over and hires a crane operator and they assemble the buildings. And the buildings are already painted, flooring, trim, everything inside is all done. But I have to put on a roof. And, of course, some foundation work, some tie-in stuff, but other than that.
have you encountered the East Sound design standards?
So I know that I'm surrounded by flat roofs and the plan I'm looking at right now does have a flat roof. But like, I'm a little concerned, what's the height, 36?
35.
35, okay, so I need to stay under 35. So to get 3 floors up, it's like, do I have to dig down? I don't want to dig down. I want to be up on higher ground, I'm sort of start up on higher ground and then my ground tapers down a little bit. So,
Well, if it's commercial, it
you
has to
could
have.
do
a
2.5 stories.
You've gotta have
what
6
they call
full
2.5 stories, which
Or you
is,
can do something like the store with parapet and,
well, that's what I'm saying, or like the athletic center
Yeah.
has a big flat roof, like a little,
right,
that
Right.
kind of decorative
Yeah.
thing around
yeah,
it.
If
right.
there's 18 feet from the edge of the building to the center, where it just like on Island Market,
Right,
where you've got 18 linear feet, you can have a roof a roof line that is pitched that meets the design standard there, and then you can have flat roof above that.
yeah,
But if you were trying to get 3 stories, that won't help you. if you're trying to get 3 stories, you need to do what they call 2.5 stories and have dormers
Yeah.
that stick out on the top.
Well, that's what I need to talk to.
Yeah,
Who's
it's
on,
expensive.
when does that committee meet and who? That's you.
I'm on it,
You're, okay,
and we could meet with you.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How big's your property?
1.67 acres.
Oh, okay, great.
And I have my house there now, the trailer, which at some point, if I have to move it, I'll move it.
So that includes the property with the trailer.
Right,
That's
it's
not a separate
basically,
parcel.
that's correct. It's all
Okay.
one big piece of
Oh,
property.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one big-
Charles, that committee hasn't met for a long time, right?
We haven't.
Well, they
I
only
think-
meet when the county sends you something.
Right, only when
So
we ask for,
65.
DCD to send them something.
So you'll notice it through DCD and.
40.
Yeah, I believe,
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
I believe Fred Klein has re-upped and he's there, but I'm not
Is David
sure
Cow?
if David Cow is, and I'm pretty sure that Clyde is not. Thank you. But-
Sally should be able to tell you.
But,
who's
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
believe, but we could see if David
Not
wants
not
to
that that's
re-up.
an issue.
But I think we would need to have at least 3 people for it to be a committee.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you need an architect.
It has to be an
It
architect,
has to be an
yeah.
architect.
and it's sort of, what would this be, like a courtesy consultation?
yeah, we're
Yeah.
happy to meet with
Yeah.
anybody in
Yeah,
advance.
and so the neat thing with Stratford is they will build anything I want, basically. That as long as it comes within, it's gotta be this long and this wide, and then they just put, however modules. They do $1 million homes, multi-million-dollar homes, or employee housing up in Montana or Alaska, where the ski things are. So they've been doing all that stuff. So I just need to see, what is the cost benefit analysis for this? Like
Yeah.
in my brain right now, the plan that I like is 3 stories, and on each floor, there's a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom unit. Right, and then just stairs. That's sort of the idea that I liked right now, that I need to do more research, see, I'm gonna talk with Lisa and say, what is the demand for on the island? And also, I know there's another gentleman that was talking about building over by the school, and I don't know where he's at in the process.
If
It's
you
the old
built,
Venice property.
if you built a
Yeah, that's 5 acres.
multi-family project where one building houses multiple units.
Yeah.
Then the design standards do not apply to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, this is apartment buildings.
no, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. I'm saying this
But it-
completely
Yeah,
else.
say that
They
again.
do apply to
It's the opposite.
If, I'm sorry, I completely said that.
Oh, if it's a home, it's.
If
It's
it
in
were,
village
if you
commercial.
had individual buildings there,
Yeah.
then you would, you would.
With individual tax
With-
parcels.
Yeah. within-
Right.
But
Yeah,
that-
and I'm hoping for higher density because that's a
Yeah,
great
sure,
area for
sure.
it.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's what we need.
I think, probably I was talking to, Steve Smith when he was trying to wrap his head around the
Yeah.
design
What's
standards.
possible.
He was probably talking about his idea for your project, but
Yeah.
he didn't tell me that.
Or,
at the
or
time.
Liberty Hill too. You was
But-
talking about right next to the school.
But we went through the different roof angles and he kind of found a way to sort of
Yeah, he had those weird
defeat the
dormers.
purpose,
Yeah, I
where he
saw
had
that.
these like multiple, so
Did you
this
see
one
that
is the
thing
right
he
pitch
did?
and that one's the right pitch and this one's
It
the right
was-
pitch. Yeah, it was pretty
It
bad.
was too big.
So I think that, anyway, I won't use up too much more of our
Yeah.
time now, but if you would like to talk about it more,
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to you and then we can also get the
Yeah,
committee together to
that'd be
discuss
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
But I think that consider the 2.5 stories and it will mean that you have slightly less usable square footage on the top floor, but you can still have a 3rd floor.
Well, and that's maybe where you put the studio apartments.
Well, you can do
kind of
8
thing, where
foot,
They're going up 3 stories and then, you put little studios up there and, yeah.
you can do 8 foot of floor, another 8 foot of floor.
Yeah.
Another 8 foot, that's 27 feet.
Yeah,
That still leaves you 8 feet for 612 pitch.
yeah.
So it's doable.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of hoping
Yeah.
for, so. So basically, I just need to come up with what kind of configuration is going to benefit the community the most and me.
Yeah, and then how you do your setbacks and how you do your parking.
Yeah, exactly. And parking's gonna be a big issue.
Yeah.
April,
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably know this already, but about 2 to 3 years ago, this committee submitted to council a plan for A Street to reconfigure the parking.
Yeah.
And it included a bulb turnaround.
I was on that committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
with Fred and Bill Trogdon.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Then you know that council, and this is before Cindy's time
Yeah.
on council turned it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope that that could be part of it, and hearing that Jane is the transportation advocate now.
Yeah.
I hope that we can bring something like that back to council.
And-
Because A Street's a mess.
Part of
Well,
my,
it is a mess, but it's a mess.
part of
because-
my divorce paperwork was I wrote in easement rights too. So that way we can have some kind of, if I step back a little bit, we can have some kind of easement between the athletic center property and my property. So that way we can facilitate another, exit to,
Okay, great.
within reason,
Yeah, right.
So,
So I
Because that
have,
was the other thing, was trying to do have a real designated pathway rather than just
right.
Yeah.
where
My
people
property.
walk, and
Yeah.
created it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
so I have two thoughts about that. One is that, where your parcels meet there, right at the road or the parking area.
Yeah.
If there could be a dedicated easement for foot traffic, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But also, if there is any good thinking around how we could move traffic around that area, there's a possibility that the county might want some right of way on that bottom corner. And if they were to get that right of way, you might be able to negotiate that for some parking credits. And even to have parking
Yeah,
possibly around in that area.
good idea.
So,
And it's such a great place to have fewer cars, just because if people need services
Right.
or work, they can, share a car or something.
right,
Have to drive all the way from.
There we go, golf carts.
you've got to go.
That's where the golf
Okay.
carts come in. It's
Rickshaws,
rickshaws.
Do you have to go like right now?
Yeah.
Can I send,
Okay.
can I go through a very fast PowerPoint?
Ye-
You know what?
Yeah.
I'll email it to you. I'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm the other
Oh,
public.
yes. Oh, and the other public, yes,
Okay.
okay.
I'm not
Thank
as
you so much.
elaborate as April, but, a couple years ago, I retired and invested in the committee, and you advertised in the paper and you said all walks of life, and I'm one of them, all walks of life. So if you're interested in having me, I've been here 45 years, married into the family that's been here since 1897, just like Lee's family. And I know quite a bit about the North Shore, having done I can't say it's a battle or a war, but it's a congenial project with the county for 10 years. And this last year, I wrote a book and published everything about the North Shore. So if anybody has any questions about easements and Bartell Road that does not go all the way through, and I will.
Maybe someday.
Well, if they build it, because the county labeled
Yeah.
Bartell Road at Terrell Beach, and it isn't Bartell Road out there. But
What's surprising for people to see them.
Are you familiar with sub-area plan and growth management act?
mhm.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Judy, what was your last name?
Watson,
Watson, okay.
Mrs. Watson, I presume.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the county, actually, when we had to go to trial, the county gave us so much information, and between the information that the county had and the information that Great Grandpa Terrell had, it put it all together, and the mystery of Terrell Beach Road and the 3 government lot lines and where does the county have this is all solved. But it actually changed all the deeds or put a correct description of all the deeds. And I've been working with the title company to correct some mistakes that they even made. And I just told them a long time ago that if they had lawyers or legal, what do we call them? Legal paralegals. If they had paralegals when I was going to school, I'd probably be that, because I looked up on all the deeds and solved all the puzzles, and it was really interesting work for me.
Judy,
So online, there's a application, so you can fill out the application and send it in to the county.
yeah,
So that'd be great.
We don't have an empty seat right now, though.
Oh, even with the ad that just said, it just came out yesterday.
I didn't, that wasn't from the county.
We
Oh.
had an empty seat at the
Oh,
time the ad
yeah.
was put in.
But you can still put
But
it in.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah, you can put in an application. It would be considered when a seat comes up.
Oh, okay.
we may have
May
in
not
the
one.
future.
Well, and anything that, like I said, I'm making myself available whenever somebody has any questions about the land bank and the Bartel connection to Terrell Beach Road. I would be happy to tell you all.
Would you have any problems attending our meetings?
I would not. I just come and listen. I have the time now.
Totally welcome.
And is it here?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, once a month?
It's here.
The
yeah.
first Thursday of every month
Okay,
That's
at 3 o'clock here.
okay. I can do that.
Great.
And if you're not on time, they lock the door, right? So.
No, we're always watching.
It's a
the
barrel of
doors.
fun.
And the thing, Robin has always been very generous about when you guys have to go over to Friday Harbor and the ferry breaks down. You just call him and we take you there. So,
oh, wow, really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming.
okay.
So,
Okay.
where are we?
Okay, so I think that concludes public comment. So we have to review streetscapes and review the work plan for 2023.
Can we move streetscapes to next month?
Well,
My daughter's waiting for me
Yeah,
and I have to
that's
close up the
fine.
building.
I can send that. Oh, you have to close up the building, so we need to finish up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna send out, it's kind of a large file because it's a PowerPoint, but it's a streetscapes document to all of us. And so we can talk about it. And basically, I would really love to put streetscapes to bed. We've been talking about this for a few months now, and I think we just need to get them to Cindy and to Colin and you know, let them know what our thoughts are about Victory Hill and North Beach Road. And in terms of the work plan,
We have it. Oh, I was gonna put it up on the thing. I think we've pretty much,
yeah, so I mean, we have a work plan. We haven't prioritized. It's 10 different items. I would be willing to just leave them as they are and then we just revisit them every month and say, what do we know about number 4? What do we know about number 6? If everyone's okay with that. So
Can I
that
make
everything gets a little less attention.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion that, that as chair, you call David and just have like a 10-minute conversation with him to make sure that you're in sync as far as
When he can be here.
Well, yeah,
we're
and
gonna
when-
discuss.
what the DCD is gonna need, because this year is gonna be really
Yeah.
busy and
Yeah.
they're gonna need a lot of time
Sure.
with you.
We've done some of that already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is transportation on that work?
Yeah.
Plan?
No.
That
I think
really
it is.
needs an update. It's been
Parking
years.
is,
Parking
Parking
is,
is,
and
but not
then,
that's
transportation.
different.
but then the parking group that David was telling us about, they included the Chamber of Commerce who asked for transportation from the ferry here to be
Yeah.
included. So it's not all transportation, but it will include transportation to and from the ferry to East Sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
well,
think it's been years since, and we have some old maps in the sub area that are no
Definitely.
longer apply.
Well, we can also address those when we update the sub-area plan.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah.
And I'd like to see us address Cindy's idea of local transportation, just within East
Yeah.
Sound, whether it's part of the bigger system or something.
It's been years since we've had any discussion on it, and we should, I think.
Okay, so for next week, next month's meeting, we'll move streetscapes and I guess just streetscapes to the next meeting. What other, we'll definitely need to have the sub-area goals document reviewed again. And then with any luck by then, we'll have the original posted under the EPRC committee on the website, county website. What other things should we have on the agenda for next month's meeting?
That's a lot.
Well, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure
Okay.
we're not missing anybody. Anything. Okay.
Okay, and then,
Oh, yeah. And then we'll add to, and we also have a committee questions and announcements.
so I have two announcements.
Go right ahead.
Okay, this Saturday, from 10 to 12, there's coffee with the cops at Tide Pool. And then to meet our new county officials, which is,
1:30 to 2:30 here at the senior center.
and it's
It's all the electeds.
all,
It's not-
everybody that was elected last
And that's
November.
also Saturday?
Everybody who's elected, period.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
1:30. Oh, okay.
yes.
This coming
This
Saturday.
coming, both of them are this coming Saturday, 10 to 12 and 1:30 to 2:30.
Okay,
So,
great.
great.
Yeah, our judges will be here, the assessor, auditor, the new prosecuting attorney, the whole county council,
Jen,
Yeah.
Fuller,
Jane Fuller.
Kane.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
wonderful. Well,
And Sheriff Eric.
unless anyone has anything else, I adjourn this meeting at 5:12 p.m.
First meeting.
Yeah, way to go. You're a seasoned veteran.
Saturday at 1:30. Yeah, 1:30 to 2:30.
Okay, so I just, I moved this, and just sent this off to her,
Awesome.
and then I sent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. See you later.